working to undermine the Constitution of this country and to restrict the liberties of all Americans. In fact, based on their known associations, these members of Congress could not even pass a standard FBI background check to get a job in the local post office. And here they are in the halls of government. I encourage everyone to see this movie. It is available at enemieswithinmovie.com. You can rent it or buy it. Go to enemieswithinmovie.com and get your copy today. And then tell your friends. If you really want to understand why the Democrats do what they are doing, you need to know their masters. Learn who their masters are by going to enemieswithinmovie.com. Welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. All right, so Donald Trump is trying to make America great again. I'm working on trying to make America constitutional again. The leftists are working on making California Mexican again. Have you noticed that? Okay, I mean, something that's fascinating, that I find fascinating, is the illegal alien issue and the Aztlan movement that is designed by Marxists to return the American Southwest to Mexico. That idea is heavily opposed by Mexicans who legally immigrated to the United States. My wife being one of those folks. Not in all cases, but in many cases, those who went through the process of immigration to become an American has a real problem with the fact that the La Raza crowd is bound and determined to make California Mexican again. Thing is, it's not just a conspiracy theory. There is a concerted effort to remove whites and anyone who opposes the leftist agenda behind the push to make California Mexican again, who may try to stand in the way of the agenda. Remember Karl Marx's quote, "The meaning of peace is the absence of opposition to socialism"? Karl Marx also said, by the way, democracy is the road to socialism. That's beside the point. By the way, my wife is one of those legal Mexican immigrants who has a real problem with the left's attempt to kill the American system through illegal immigration. Now what we have is cities are going into districting so they can get more Hispanics on the dais, basically. And then we've got white politicians who I don't even know how to put this. White politicians who are pushing a lawsuit to make it. I was watching a video, California Voting Rights Act, and the white politicians are pushing for districting because it impairs the protected class from being able to get on the city councils. And then you've got the mass migration movement, illegal aliens coming. Drives me nuts. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much more into this topic because we have a book report that I wanted to do at the top of the hour for Alex, and we've been rolling on so many topics. I just weren't able to squeeze it in. But Alex, what book are you working on right now?
Okay, the book in question is Political Pilgrims by Paul Hollander. And
what's the basic what's the basic synopsis?
The synopsis is that the people who consider themselves intellectuals have a problem with their own culture, and they keep reaching out to other cultures, primarily Marxist revolutionary cultures, thinking that they're superior. And their perception is so selective, their sympathies are so selective that they're the actual opposite of what they claim to be.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about, and you were just saying, what about the countries that these people come from? How are they? How are their standards? These people look at the militarism in America and despise it. I had a lady here I went to college with. When her son was about 6 years old, they were in the airport, and some soldiers walked by, and he asked if they were soldiers, and she said yes, and he ran screaming down the concourse, thinking they were going to pull out a bayonet and gut him because of the way his mother had been talking about the American military. On the other hand, when there was a big peace conference back in the 70s, and all kinds of Americans went to Russia to I guess, worship at their altar, a lot of these Russians were wearing medals from World War II. And the peace people thought it was just fine. If you're a Russian soldier, you're just ducky. But if you're an American soldier, you're a war criminal. And it goes the same all the way down any subject you can name. As I've said before, when they see the smokestacks and the pollution in Russia that so horrified them when they saw it in their own country, it's a sign of, well, an example was Susan Sontag, I believe it was looking at a machine that could unfold papers and sort them. And she said, what a wonderful product of the socialist system. And she went around the other side of it, and there was a plate on it saying "Made in Milwaukee." At which point it wasn't marvelous anymore. These people have a problem in their personality. They're rebelling against their parents when they rebel against the system. But the one thing you notice about them is that what they really want, kind of like my fiance in college, what they really want is somebody who will make them straighten out, make them do right. And as long as the American system, what do we have? We got college presidents that refuse to allow the police to stop the people from burning down their buildings, stop the kids from doing that. You've got judges, the people in Ferguson, Missouri, they're burning buildings, smashing windows, trashing automobiles, and the judges give them no sentence at all. There's no punishment. Well, this causes disrespect among these people, hatred for weakness. And that's all we show them now is weakness. We don't defend our own society, even when they're burning. Here, these people have worked all their lives building up these businesses, trying to do right, and some punk comes along and throws a Molotov cocktail through the window, and it's all over for that family. And we do nothing.
Real quick, it's funny that you brought up Susan Sontag. Are you how familiar are you with the Susan Sontag's writings and all of that? Casually. She was my instructor, late 90s, early 2000s, in a writing course that I took. And I didn't know who she was or her history. And she finally handed me off to a different instructor because I was impossible to work with because I kept writing in a manner that she did not like. My short stories had had conservative undertones basically to them, or overtones, I guess. And you could totally tell. I mean, I've always written in a similar manner, and to the point where she wound up handing me off to a different instructor. And it was at that time I started learning more about her and discovered that she it just made sense after she handed me off.
She and other leftist women, Joan Baez, Mary McCarthy, they all of them had a change of heart late in their careers. They realized that they had been fooled.
Right.
And yet,
but by then it was too late.
By then it was too late. Joan Baez wrote an open letter to the North Vietnamese communists demanding to know why they had perverted the revolution to the point where they were slaughtering their own people who opposed them and imprisoning people for 30 years at a time. she passed that around to all the other peace protesters, and at least half of them refused to sign it. But the left doesn't quote what they said in their latter years. They quote what they said at their most rabid revolutionary.
Right. Well, Susan Sontag died in 2004, I believe, December. But yeah, she was my instructor. Oh, anyway, let's go to break. I hate to finish now on you. Because we need to go to break because we still have a lot to talk about. I'm going to talk about natural rights when we come back. We've been talking about, the socialist, communist revolutions. And you're talking about rights, and really people don't have rights under those types of regimes. And then we talked about homosexuality and all that. Well, what are rights? We're going to talk about it when we return. Don't go anywhere.
Tired of working for others? Want to regain your freedom and flexibility in life? Want to invest in a successful business model with proven results and unlimited earning potential? Then Franchise Experts 360 can change your life. Franchise Experts 360 is a franchise consulting firm. Franchise Experts 360 represents 400 plus franchisors from all different industries. Franchise Experts 360 will work with you to find the franchise business model that fits your budget and lifestyle. Whether you're looking for a home-based retail, mobile service, direct ownership, or absentee ownership business model, Franchise Experts 360 has a franchise that's right for you. Visit franchiseexperts360.com. That's franchiseexperts360.com to contact our office. Our Franchise Experts 360 consulting services are at no cost to our clients. That's right, no cost, as we are paid by the franchisors. Change your life, invest it into yourself, grow a successful business model, and live the American dream. Franchise Experts 360 is your key to success. Contact franchiseexperts360.com. The second hour of Constitution Radio is partly brought to you by the Bravis Corporation and the new documentary film, Enemies Within, based on the book of the same name by Trevor Loudon. I have personally viewed this movie and have met and interviewed the author, Trevor Loudon, and if everyone in this country saw this film and took the time to understand and apply its important message, this country would immediately begin to solve its problems, and its future would dramatically change for the better. This movie rips the mask off of over 100 members of Congress who are under the control of socialists, communists, and the Muslim Brotherhood, who are violating their oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the United States. They are actually working to undermine the Constitution of this country and to restrict the liberties of all Americans. In fact, based on their known associations, these members of Congress could not even pass a standard FBI background check to get a job in the local post office. And here they are in the halls of government. I encourage everyone to see this movie. It is available at enemieswithinmovie.com. You can rent it or buy it. Go to enemieswithinmovie.com and get your copy today. And then tell your friends. If you really want to understand why the Democrats do what they are doing, you need to know their masters. Learn who their masters are by going to enemieswithinmovie.com.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back to Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, KMET, 1490 AM. Benjamin Franklin said that only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. The virtue of a society is tied into the definition of natural rights. In the opening paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence, the definition of what a natural right is laid out in clear language. The laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. We hold these truths to be self-evident. They are endowed by their Creator certain unalienable rights, which means our rights are God-given. We are entitled to have them. They are self-evident to us, and they are unalienable, inseparable. Even if I don't have access to a right, that right still belongs to me. If our rights are God-given, then they are also God-defined. So among the rights we must so among the questions we must ask when determining if a right is a right is to ask, would God sanction the item as a right? Would God sanction abortion as a right? If not, then it is not a right. Our personal individual rights also must not extend to the point where they interfere with another's right. As the old saying goes, my right to swing my arm stops at the tip of another's nose. Religious liberties are among the 5 rights enumerated in the First Amendment. Should other items, then, who some people believe to be rights, be able to extend to a point that they can interfere with the religious rights? Should a behavior be able to interfere with one's religious rights when it comes to health care, or whether a baker should be required to bake a particular cake? God and our rights existed before the creation of government. Government has no authority to infringe upon them, for our natural rights are our possession. Individual ownership of one's natural rights also means that it is the individual's duty to protect and defend one's rights. It is not the job nor the authority of government to guarantee our rights. Government is commanded by the U.S. government to not infringe on our rights. Godly moral standards serve as the foundation of the American system. The Judeo-Christian founding of the United States serves as an irreplaceable element in the construction of our system of liberty. A Judeo-Christian foundation has proven to be the most appropriate moral standard. According to the founding fathers, we have the law of morality written on our hearts. John Locke often discussed this. He called it natural law. Locke's writings about natural law carry universal validity, both through space and time, and were a large influence on the founding fathers when they constructed the American system. According to Locke, natural law and our natural rights are independent things, not connected to social arrangements, conventions, or common beliefs. Our basic morals and rights are natural as opposed to artificial, meaning they are not brought about by humanity or law. No person or group of persons can abolish or amend them. Our natural rights are God-given. Natural law includes rules of conduct, and these are not laws simply uttered into existence by some ruler, but are written on everybody's hearts. God gave us the ability to reason our way to recognize them. Some people may refer to this self-evident knowledge of what is good and evil as being one's conscience. Natural law is the source of our moral behavior and moral duties. Parents, for example, under the moral duties defined by natural law, should care for their children. This duty belongs to the parents, and therefore it means that the parents have the natural right to care for their children without interference on the part of others. We also have natural rights that do not involve duties, such as the right to acquire property. We have the right to protect our property, which would also support the right to keep and bear the tools necessary for protecting said property, not only from the potential criminal element, but from a tyrannical government. The right to speak freely and the right to limit government to the powers authorized to it should the political officials exceed their granted authorities. In the Declaration of Independence, the wording regarding our right to alter or abolish the government is that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Natural law, the moral standards we derive from it, and natural rights are all intertwined. They are all a part of the same overall concept of divine providence. They are divinely given and are binding on us because they have been commanded by God. They are in place to provide a maximal benefit to humanity and to protect us from the consequences of immoral actions. that is what I have to say about natural rights. Let's move on to Syria and President Trump's war powers. President Trump decided to send Tomahawk missiles into Syria to destroy an airbase where planes that delivered chemical weapons were launched from. And I had written mere hours before I heard about that I believe that the president should, A, allow Assad to stay in office. Don't get rid of him. Just weaken him, because if we create a void, someone like the Muslim Brotherhood or Iranian puppets are going to move in. B, don't put Americans at risk. Do not have pilots over Syria. Do not have boots on the ground. Use, and I said specifically, Tomahawk missiles. And 3, do it quickly, decisively, and then get out of there. And that's exactly what happened. Very proud of President Trump. But now the question is on the table is, did he have the constitutional authority? What do you think, Alex?
I think there's no question that he had the authority to do what he did, and I'm rather shocked that people like Pelosi are actually praising the action. Of course, they always do that at the beginning of a war, and then they spend the rest of the war denigrating our side and accusing us of war crimes.
Well, there are many Democrats that are saying that he acted outside constitutional authority because he did not talk to Congress first. Now, using their argument, they say, well, he has to talk to Congress to initiate a military action. Are we not already in the Middle East and already involved in this fight regarding Syria and ISIS? And if so, why would he then need congressional approval to use a military action in an already existing conflict, first of all, right?
Well, does it matter if it's already existing or not?
Well, it really doesn't, but I'm using their argument first. Alex, what do you think?
He's already got the War Powers Act that was put in some time ago, but the whole question of whether the commander-in-chief can command has always been argued. And the fact of the matter is that for a strike like this, he has to have the flexibility to do it without telling anybody, because if you tell people, they're going to do what they did, which is get out of the way.
Yeah, and with this current Congress, God knows how long it would have taken to get it out of debate, right? What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, he has the authority to do it. He cannot declare war. I mean, Congress has to do some of those things. If Congress doesn't like what he's doing, they can defund him if it's fast enough. But, you know, he's commander-in-chief. There's nothing that says he's the commander-in-chief, but before, as Alex says, he commands, he needs to get together a bunch of legislators and convince them. And no, I mean, that's a direct chain of command. You know?
Well, the founding fathers feared a standing army. They feared a tyrannical leader. However, at the same token, they also knew that if they gave all of the abilities regarding war to only Congress, it would be a very slow-moving process. And sometimes when it comes to war, you have to be able to move swiftly. So they made the president the commander-in-chief so he may wage war, and they gave, in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, Congress the authority to declare war for a long, drawn-out campaign in which war needs to be declared, it needs to be formally declared, and funding is going to be long-term. Congress definitely needs to be involved and declare it. President can wage war without consulting Congress. Now, that said, do I think he ought to? When it is doable, absolutely. Talk to Congress, get their permission. Got their permission, but their blessing, I suppose we could say. But ultimately, if he feels that it's necessary for the national security of this country to do something, and trust me, the protection of our ally in the Middle East is a part of that. He absolutely does have the constitutional authority to take action when he feels it is necessary. And that said, we're out of time. Alex, plug yourself.
ConservativeCannonade.org. I'm telling you, this is real literature. It's real information. You ought to check it out.
And you got a blog now, so hit the blog link. We're going to get that blog rolling so well that it's going to knock your socks off.
Yeah,
I was just with Alex earlier this week about that.
I still haven't figured out the blog completely, but yeah, give it a try.
All right, Dennis.
enemieswithinmovie.com if you want to know what's going on and who's pulling the strings and who really is associated with Russia and the commies. It's not the Republicans.
And I am Douglas V. Gibbs, DouglasVGibbs.com, PoliticalPistachio.com. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. Thanks for listening. And never forget, united we stand, combined we kick butt. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program